Can you guys hear us in the call?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Morning. Hopefully, no one's too hungover from St. Patty's Day. It's gonna get started.
Sweet. All right, guys. So today we're talking about how to build Flexbox, and we'll explain what that is and kind of what responsive design is and how it will be applied. So we'll do what we normally do. Build out a I'm gonna have an in-class folder as well. So inside of that one, I'm gonna do my index HTML. Give it a Flexbox title. We'll go ahead and just create a style sheet and link it as well.
Share your screen.
No. Forget that I have to have it in like 3 places.
Yeah.
That one. Okay, people on the call, you can see this now.
Yes.
Sweet, sorry about that. Okay, so I just created this index HTML and this style CSS that doesn't have anything in it yet. Let's get this over in the corner or something. Okay, so inside of here, we need a link. What goes on a link to link a CSS file? Relation, and what's that value? Style sheet. And how do I link to the file?
Href.
Yeah, perfect. It's gonna autofill. Sweet. All right, so I'm gonna kind of show you a little sneak peek of just the prep I did and kind of how we're gonna be building it out. I gotta open it, huh? So this is what we're going for here, is just sectioned off things to explain each kind of Flexbox. So that's what we're going to be building out. And so for each of those, we're going to need a section to get that out of the way. Get that out of the way. We don't need this. Okay. So we're going to make a div with the class name of section. Build out section, styles.
Please hold on. This train is departing.
Padding of 10 pixels, border 1 pixel, solid black to give it a border so we can see it.
The next stop serves gates E60.
Yeah, I think. Let's see, maybe I can make it. Hey, Kenneth, I think you're unmuted. Thank you. Okay, so we've got this section, and we've got a section here. Let's just put in a div for now. That's just going to be some content. And then close enough. So let's open this live server, just make sure everything is working. Nice. So we can see our section. And so inside of this section, we're going to make some boxes. So a class of box, and it doesn't really need to have anything. For now, we'll just give it like a 1, so we know that it's like the first box. And I'll go ahead and make 3 of these, box 2, box 3. And in the styles, we're going to define what our box looks like. So our box is going to be.
Is there enough room to put the style and the index side by side if you collapse the navigator?
Probably.
I feel like that's nice. So see both.
Do you guys like that better?
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
We'll suffer. I hate working like this, but I know some people do it, but
You don't ever do side by side? Are you serious?
only when I'm doing like merge conflicts, but that's it.
Oh, man, I always do.
No, I can't. I can't. Especially now when it's this big, it's huge. Okay. So background color. We're gonna make this, I was using brown, so we'll just like try to make it as close as possible. Brown, and we can just give this a padding of 10 pixels, so it looks a little better too. Okay, so we've got all of these are boxes. I'm gonna make a separate class just for this. That's going to be box size 100. And this is just kind of like a utility class. It's going to tell it that I want this container to be width and height of 100 pixels. Okay, and so we need to apply that to all of these as well. I'll just copy that. Okay, so now we should have some boxes that are all 100 pixels. Okay, so we have 3 boxes that bottom to top are all just stacked with 100 pixels. We can go ahead and give our box itself a 10 pixel margin. That way we can sit them spaced out. Okay. Maybe I didn't save. Nice. So now we have 3 boxes that are all 100 by 100. Oh, let's give our box color white so we can see our little numbers. Sweet. So now we're going to talk about we looked at like display block, display inline block. There's another one that's display none. And so that means just take it off the page basically. So that element is just not rendered. So let's apply a class of display none. And let's do display. So we're kind of just building this a little differently than how we normally do. Instead of saying like, I've got an input, I want to style this particular input with all the styles. These are all just utility classes that you can apply everywhere. So anything I want to display none, you could just give it this class. And so then every element will have more classes, but then there'll be more interchangeable. And so this is kind of like, there's different libraries and things that will have just a CSS file that you can import, and you can just use their classes. And so this is kind of replicating what it would be like to work with something like that. Sweet. So we need to apply display none on number 2 here, right? So now you see we've got box 1 and box 3. Okay. Now let's look at another attribute that is commonly confused with display none and is a little different, and that's going to be visibility hidden. Give this a visibility hidden.
Save your style.
That's why I don't work with 2 files. All right, so you can see that it's gone, but also you can see that there's still space on the page between this box 1 and this border. And so if I add a new box, box 4, dude, there it is.
There we go.
All right, let's add box 4. And it's going to be just the same as box 1, just it has a 4 in it. Here, I'll try to use Command Tab more. So just from what we learned about visibility hidden a second ago, it still had space. Like, where would we expect box 4 to show up? Let me hide this and then go back. Is box 4 going to be in this space? Is it going to push this down more?
Be below the space.
It'll be below the space. So if we hide this or unhide this, come back. Exactly. So box 1 is here. Box 2 is display none. so it's not there. Box 3 is hidden. So it takes up the space on the page, but is just not visible. And so box 4 is minding that space there. Generally, display none is better because the DOM doesn't have to actually render it, and you don't have to be like, why is there weird stuff that's not here that sometimes is there? But there's a place if you need both. Sweet. Let's go ahead and title this section. Let's create a title tag also. Not a title, actually. And this will be display none versus visibility hidden. And give this a, do it closer to the top. Section box, whatever here. So I'm kind of organizing this to where the highest level things are at the top, like in the HTML wise, and then the more specific, smaller things are all the way at the bottom. That way, whenever you read the HTML, you come over here, you can kind of read it parallel, right? So for the title, this one is going to be just styling the titles. So we can just actually make this an H1, I think. And then might hope we need actually. Sure, that looks good enough. So we can kill this. Okay, so we haven't done any Flexbox stuff yet, but this is just learning about kind of the final display property that is common before display flex. And so now we're going to look at like, what is Flexbox? Sorry, I keep going the wrong way. All right, so let's make a new section. And inside of here, we're going to make another H1. We're going to structure all of these just to be the same. And inside of here, we're just going to call this Flexbox. Okay, so how Flexbox works is it's not on each element, right? Like if we're looking at this and I've got all of these boxes, it's not affecting the box itself. It's affecting a container around all of the boxes and how it styles its children. And so we need a div that is going to be our flex. Flex. And we're going to give this display of flex. And so inside of here, we can start putting all of our like boxes and stuff again. And then we can just like kill these. Okay, so we've just got 3 boxes and we've got a display flex. And so what that looks like is like this. And so what that's doing is saying, hey, I've got, if we open this up, I've got this container and I want all of these things to just appear in the same row, regardless of however they are, like if they are, you know, display block or whatever. So this is effectively what we were trying to do whenever we were looking at the Elemental contact page, is that we just needed these 3 things to be together. So if we just said, hey, width right here of 200 pixels, where in our case it's 100 pixels, we could just make all of these columns inside of a flex container and just give them the width of 200 pixels, and then they will all appear next to each other like this, like how it is here, right? So that's one thing, is that it lets you put blocks together on the same line, but it just does dramatically more than that. So that's kind of, let's put a margin between these borders to section it off. So, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, guys. Section, let's give it a margin bottom of 10 pixels. Everything's 10 pixels. Okay. So that's just the general Flexbox look. Yeah, we can kind of talk about this. So let's remove this box size 100 from our boxes inside of the flex container. Okay, so now they are just the number itself and the padding of 10 pixels around it. And so there's no height and width set on these anymore. But they are all still just taking up the smallest amount of space versus if I were to say, like, remove this, now they're all full width, right? And that's because there's nothing telling them not to be a block level, nothing telling them not to be the full width of the page. And so whenever you put this class back in, now it knows, hey, like, I'm just going to be my own until it tells me to be bigger, basically. Nice. Okay, so then the box, let's create a class that's going to be called full width. I'm just going to say width is 100%. And let's give each of these a full width. And save both of these. Nice. Okay, so now you can see we have each of them is filling exactly their portion of the width of its parent. And so if we made the width of the parent smaller, and I'll just do this in the browser, like width is going to be width is going to be 50%. So now that is 50% of its parent, and all of those will shrink to fit within inside of that container. And so that's what the flex is, right? The width is changing based on what the parent is. And so the parent, let's say I remove this, just refresh, get rid of that. Now my boxes are shrinking whenever the width changes. And so that's what makes it like responsive, right? Like if I go to a phone here, now these boxes all fit and they fit, nicely. So if you wanted to have like a button that was like, you've seen like a big call to action button at the bottom of a phone website that says like contact me or whatever, then this can give you the full width. But then whenever you go to a browser, then it's not just set to the width of the screen, it's set to the width of the entire container. So this will let it fill up, right? Okay. Get rid of this too. Okay, so let's look at I was going to show the faults of this. We can look into that too real quick. So this is just going to be an example going back to how we were trying to do it with inline block and why Flex does that better, okay? So on top of this, we'll make another section. And we're going to give it a H1. It's going to be inline block faults. This is the reason I don't know how to style with inline block is because it's just like Flex, but bad. So inside of here, we want to say, hey, I have 3 boxes because technically it doesn't even need a wrapper. We'll just do box 3 times. And then let's make a inline block style. Display. Inline block. And we're going to give this to all of our boxes. And then we're also just going to give it this box size 100 class as well, so we can just see what they look like. Okay. So we should have 3 inline boxes. Display. Oh, I need the parent to be inline block, huh? So I need a div right here. Inline block. And this should be wrapping these, not the other way. Let me see that. What is wrong here? Let's look at our cheat styles. Hmm.
The other one had the demand block each. Yeah. See if they like it.
That's what I thought. Oh, I think it's because I never saved my CSS. Prep die. Okay. So let's get rid of this wrapper again. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. I was thinking it worked like flex. So box, not all of those boxes, just this box. Yeah, that is right. Sweet. Okay, so now I've got these three blocks, right? But let's say we wanted to style it like this, to where they will each span the width, right? That's where the faults come in. Sorry, this is tiny. So instead of doing box size 100 for this, we're going to give it a just a stretch. This class doesn't matter as much. Like I think the best way to do that really is just do something like 32%. Something to just like fill that space. And so we might need to mess with that class a little bit to get it to look great. Nice. So 29% is what it needed to account for. Like it was close, but like, and it kind of works where you can do this, but eventually like the room breaks away. And so stretch lets these automatically fit, where this, you know, eventually it's just going to look ugly and not work how you want it to. Like they're kind of changing sizes, but it's not going to work in every case, which flex always will. And so that's kind of the important part there. Okay. So let's check out our next section. This one. All right. So inside of this section, oh yeah. We need a H1 for our header. And this is going to be about the flex property. And we're going to need a flex container. We're going to need some boxes. And I think that's good for now. Okay, so save that, make sure we still have our boxes. Yeah. I kind of want like more space between each of these. Let's just make this like 50. Okay. So now we've got this. Let's put our numbers in there too, so we can keep them straight. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so the flex property is kind of similar in most use cases to saying width 100%. And so this goes on the child elements inside of a flex container for it to do anything. And so we've got a flex container here on this box. Let's give this a property of flex1, our class of flex1. Create that. And so this is not anything with the display. This is a actual property of CSS just called flex. And so if I say flex1 on box1 and save both of these freaking files, and now this is essentially with 100%. And so can you guys see back there? You good? Okay. So 2 and 3 are tiny because they're not taking up any space, but the one that's flex of 1 says, I want to be just fill the space inside of the parent, right? And so if I give them all flex of 1, then it's similar to the one above where they all say, hey, I'm 100% width. And so that's effectively the same thing, but flex can have more values than just them all being 1, right? And so let's look at, oh, I think on the other one, I also just added these boxes for comparison on what something looks like when it has a fixed width. So we can throw this inside of this here too. Box 4, box 4. So this one has width 100. It's kind of weird. Flex box. What is the width of this? So I don't know if you can see, there's a little blue line here that it's like saying it's outside of this parent, but it's like shrinking inside of the parent. And so it's trying to be with 100%, but I think because these are all set to with 100%, that it's getting rid of that. But this one, when we're using flex 1, it still creates the space for this. So kind of maybe use flex 1 instead of 100%. I normally use 100%, but I've never dealt with this. But so it kind of interacts with other elements that are hard coded, not necessarily a part of the grid that just exist inside of that flex container. This kind of makes more appropriate space for them. All right, and so let's make one that's called flex 2. And let's give that to box 2. Okay, so what do we think will happen whenever this one is flex 2? Like, what does that value mean? So what it's doing is it's saying, I'm going to take up all of the space, but I want to define one like unit basically as one of these. And so flex 2 or box 2 now has a flex of 2. And so that means that it's going to take up twice as much space as anything with flex of 1. And so these are each flex of 1, and together they are the same size as box 2. And it's variable sizes, right? Like it will always shrink them, but they will always be half of this box. And so I can make this one 1 and 2 and 3. And it just does all the math for you and will always make it variable.
So it's all relative, man, 'cause I just made it all 2 just to see, and it just made them all the exact same.
Right.
size. So it just finds its own units. In there.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah. What'd I die? What'd I do? Flex 3, save. There we go. Yeah. So this is saying box 1 is 1 unit, box 2 is 2 units, box 3 is 3 units. So it should be 3 times the size of box 1 within the confined space. Yeah. And so this is good for like, it's not a lot. You want to have weird stretchy things that are exactly twice of something else, but you might find a use case at some point that it'll be useful. Yeah. Yeah, and this is good because like if you do the math, right? Let's say I wanted this to be exactly 120 pixels, then this one math is that's not 120 pixels. 200. Oh yeah, so this one's 284 pixels. And so this one is 562 pixels. So it's like if on this screen size, I could hard code those pixels and it would look perfect. But then once I get onto any other screen, then now they're all wrong and it would not fill the space. Sweet. So that's, does anybody have any questions with the flex property? The most common use for it is like exactly this, is that I've got a container that is I've got something over here that's 200 pixels and I need something to just fill the rest. And so you can just give that other box a flex of 1 and it'll just fill the rest of the space and put the wrapper as a flex. And so it'll kind of work like this. Sweet. Let's check out our GD again. All right, now here's probably my favorite part of Flex. And we're gonna make a new section. Yeah. Make a new H1. And this is going to be direction and alignment. Okay, so inside of here, we're gonna have our flex wrapper. And this is why it's good to have a class just like Flex. Like there's a lot of component libraries that will basically just export a div that will just have a class of Flex. And that way you can just import it and just use it and not have to say div class Flex, because it will just be the Flex component. That'll come later when we're in like React. But this is so common that, you know, they make a thing that is just this packaged, but so you can write less words. Okay, so inside of here, we need some boxes. Let's just do box. And we can make them 100s for now. Size 100, save this way. Okay. So default, the flex is going in a row. The default value of flex direction is row. And so what that means is that whenever you say flex on the parent, it's going to put them side by side, right? But there's a lot of things to flex, right? Like there's this flex property and there's all of these stretchy aspects. And what if you need them to be vertical? But you can change the flex direction to be column so that instead of being horizontal, it will go vertical. And so we can set that on here. Make a class called flex call. Flex. Nope. Call. So this will be flex direction column. Let's give these a 1, 2, 3. Just this is going to be the first time that it's going to be super important. Okay, so now we've got this. And so it takes the same thing, but puts them vertical. And so this looks like, you know, normally you could just put this as a regular div, not in a flex container at all. And it would, you know, it would look the same as this. But if you wanted to say like, make this parent, we're just going to do some in the browser coding because this is not going to be for the long term. Let's give this a height of 1,000 pixels, right? So this is going all the way down. And so now I can give this box right here a flex of 1. I don't know if you guys can read all that, but you kind of gather the picture. And so now this will fill the height the same way it would fill horizontally because we have set the height of the container to be 1,000 pixels. So it says, I want to be all of this and fill that space. Sweet. And so this is useful for things like, let me show you some other cool stuff real quick. So we've got this, and this container is this large, and we want to say the overflow of it is going to be scroll, right? Let me get my 3 in here. This is something else that VS Code will do for you. If you type lorem, this is going to spit out lorem ipsum, which is just like, I don't know, Latin-ish text. Yeah. So let's just take all of that line. Let's just like copy this a bunch. So this should be a million miles long. Okay. We broke something.
You lost your plus the 200.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I get. I'll just pop this on real quick again. right. My overflow is, oh, yeah, yeah, okay. I was like, where's my overflow? Overflow. Scroll. Get it. Nice. Okay, so now we have a contained thing that will always fill this container, but it will scroll within itself. And so this is super common on like, just like flash YouTube real quick. Like they have all of this stuff that is static, but this container inside of here is scrolling within itself. And so this could, you could make it have a flex 1 and have everything inside of it scroll, right? And the rest of the page would just not have to worry about how it's moving and anything like that. Because the page won't scroll unless you give it content that's bigger than the page, right? That's just its default nature. So if you make sure that everything fits inside of the page using something like 100 VH, 100 VW, and just size everything to the view width and the view height, and then just the containers inside make them scrollable, then you can get something like this to where you don't have to have the whole page scroll, right? And so Flex lets you like fill up that container that you have defined to fit within the view. And so I could have like a scroll side nav and a scrolling main part that will scroll separately, right? Sweet. Okay, so we can just refresh this and get rid of all that and kill our miles of lorem ipsum text. Okay. So that's just a general alignment. Like you might want something to be a column, right? What else can alignment do? So there's 4 values. Row is the default. There's also row reverse, column, and column reverse. And so these are silly and they don't get used that often, but I'll go ahead and just mutate this one right here. So you can see it's just the same thing, but it just took all of the elements and put them upside down. And so it's 3, 2, 1 instead of 1, 2, 3. You know, why would you do that? But it's there if you wanted it.
Newest, oldest, newest kind of thing for like pictures or something like that. But
Yeah. Yeah. I guess
I don't know why you would use that.
I would normally just, yeah, I would normally just flip the data and just re-render it.
that makes more sense.
Yeah, but I mean, that could be easier actually, but yeah, so that exists. I don't know that I've ever actually used it before. Cool. So we've got our 1, 2, 3. Let's do a subheader because this big ass section, we're just gonna section it off more. So we've got this H1, let's make it an H. Let's put H2 below it. And this is just going to be for our flex columns. And then let's make another H2 right here. And this is going to be for justify content. And so we need another flex container. And inside of that, we want our boxes. Box size 100. Okay. So the width of the container right now is larger than the width of all of our boxes combined, right? So there's a lot of space over here in the blue that is all just not being used, but it's still a part of the flex container. And so the default for what is called justify content is basically saying it's justify content. I think the default is star or flex start. They're pretty similar. But that just means that it's going to put it at the start of the flex box. Okay. But there are so many other options. And so this is kind of one of the really cool things about Flex. And so let's say, I'm just going to call this justify content, and I'm going to mutate the value of it. And I'll just leave them commented so we can see all of the different values. Easier than making like 7 classes. Justify content. Okay, and so there's a lot of properties that exist in CSS that are only for Flexbox. And so you can put them on any element, but if you're not inside of a Flex container, they just won't do anything. And so like this is one of them, and flex of one is one of them. And so they have to be inside of the wrapper that is a flex for this to have any meaning. But so here's a bunch of the values that can be set. And so VS Code is great for this. It'll show you, it knows justify content can only take these values, right? So super common one is like center.
That goes on each element or does it go on the?
It goes on the wrapper. It does indeed go on the wrapper. Boom, boom, X. Oh, not X, shit. That's fine. Will this paste it 3 times? Yeah, well. There we go. So that goes on the wrapper. Sorry about that. So justify content is saying on this wrapper, yeah, that makes more sense. On the wrapper itself, we're going to justify all of its content to be in the center. So that's pretty easy, but there's the text align center that you can use, but that does not work for every element, right? Only text, I'm pretty sure, within its own div. This will work for anything. So now you can center like, you know, you've seen like medium or something. Medium. Dude. Sure, this works. I was gonna click an article, but yeah, so they've got all of this like space on the outside. And so they can just define this container as its width, let's say 1,000 pixels or something. And they can just define the container as 1,000 pixels, make the parent a flex, and then just justify its center. So then this will center the entire thing right there instead of it being default is on the left, right? And so we can look at some other values. We can just do this in the browser. It's easy enough. Well, we'll do it here so that I can just comment them out so you can see all the values. So justify content is center. I guess I could have done it without the comment, but let's do flex end. So this is if you want to right align something, right? Now it all is at the end of the flex box. There's 2 values that are very similar. One is flex end. One is right. So it's kind of the same thing, right? I think the big difference we'll see is if we go inside of our flex column and we say, how big is this? Let's just make a new class just for this, because I think it'd be better to have things stick around. Height 1,000, height 1,000. Height 1,000. Okay. So inside of our flex column here, we've got 1,000 pixels. And so if I say justify content on side of this wrapper, it says it's going to justify it to the right. And so nothing happens because the right is over there, but the container is only this wide, right? Because it's going in a column. If we hover this. So it's not going to, because these are divs, right? Going sideways. And so it's not going to move them because it's flexing vertically, right? So how would I get them at the bottom? So you can do flex end for that. So if we flip these, now that works, right? And so flex end changes depending on what your direction orientation is, right? So flex end is saying no matter which way we're going, I want it to be at the bottom, but there's also a bottom. I think should be. Is there not a bottom? Interesting. So flex end is your thing when you're doing vertical. Thought there was a bottom. Nice. Okay, so those are some of just the like, I wanted to start, the center, and the end, but one of the really, really cool ones is the space X, right? Space around, space between, space evenly. Space around. Let's not do it on this one anymore. We can kill that too. We want to look at this bottom. So space around says, I'm going to take all of this space I have available and just put this equal space between them so that they can kind of be, you know, not, space around is kind of weird. I don't know exactly what it defines, how this space is defined, but it doesn't want it to be at the edge. It's calculating some width to put on a space over there. Space. Comment. Between, this is kind of what I was previously talking about. So this one is saying, I just want all the space to be between them. So the other ones are at the ends of the flex containers, right? And then the last one is space evenly. Yeah, who knows? Space round's wonky. I couldn't tell you the math on that one. So space evenly, this space and this space and this space and this space are all exactly the same, right? Space around was kind of like the sides were smaller and I couldn't tell you exactly why, just that's what it does. But space,
Like every element saying left and right, spacing, no matter goes on the end or if there's no one.
do you think it was like
So that
doubled in the middle? Yeah, I think that is true. Space round, let's try it again, look at it. Yeah, that looks like double. That's probably true.
Yeah, I think you're right.
What another
No.
element?
Oh, we didn't do our 1, 2, 3.
I did 5 and it looks like it basically just put a box there and then there was an empty space about the same size.
Sweet. So those are pretty cool. So it's just by content. That one's super common, right? Another thing is like here, right? So we've got this big nav bar here. Let's do a darker nav bar. I use this as my example that we're gonna look at GitHub later, and we're gonna build out some of these with Flex at the end of this class. What time is it? Nice. So the easiest way to build a nav bar, right, is that you've got all of this stuff, put that in a div, right? All of the things that are grouped together, put them in a div together. So you got all of these links, this icon, the search bar is all one div. All of the things on the right is one div. Put a flex around both of them and then put space between. So then now these are all to the left, these are all to the right. And so no matter what you do, whenever you move this around, those are going to be, all these are going to be over here, all these are going to be over here, right?
Will you go back to the flex box and then when you shrink the. And you keep going all the way, what happens?
They will, they'll lose there. Yeah. And so I think what's happening here is the same thing that's happening up here on this one, where this one had width of 100, but like the space just didn't allow it. And so it just, Flex will overtake its width and to tell it what to be. Sweet. Okay, so that's just by content, super cool. And it works vertically also. If you do a flex column, you could set a width, a height, and then do justify content space evenly or whatever. That is an option if you wanted to do, instead of like, we could make this whole container out here a flex wrapper and set it a height and say space between, so that it could just give us this grid and stuff. But that is so much more complicated than just giving these a margin, right? So generally justify content as more of a left to right thing. I've seen it done in columns, but it's more of a niche than just left to right. Okay, so let's talk about the other alignment tool. And so we're going to call this align items. And give this another H2. Align items. We need this to have a flex that has align items. Nope. Have we talked about casing at all? Like, so generally this is called kebab case. generally all of your classes in your CSS, like this is how CSS is written. And so it makes sense to just, you're already using that notation in CSS. And so it just makes sense to use all of your class names and everything like that. Like align items like this is a correct name class that you could write and use, or you could even make it something ugly like this or something. But it looks like nicer inside of the CSS if it just matches how all of the other elements and properties look, right? Same with your file names, like kebab case is what you want to do. Don't put spaces in files. Don't make your files capital. You will later, but not now. Sweet. We'll get into casing more. For now, just make everything kebab case generally. Looks like a kebab, right? Skewer, yeah. Okay, so align items. This is going to be align items. And for now, let's just say center, and then we'll look at what that does. So we come in here and we need, again, this is like justify content where this goes on the wrapper and is affecting the children of the wrapper. So we need our boxes, 3 of them, 1, nope, that's a 2. And I fucked that up. 1, 2, jeez, 3. Okay. So we've got boxes. Let's make 2 of them the same box size 100. And then for demonstration, let's get rid of this for a second, or we can just comment this out for a second. That's another thing I don't think I've ever said. Align items, like here is a class that doesn't exist, and your HTML won't care, right? It just will not apply anything to it. So we've got 3, but let's make one of them not 100. Let's make a box size 200. Okay, so now we've got a 200. Let's make this one 200. Check our browser. So now I've got this big ugly box, right? We need to make them centered vertically. And so that's what align items does. And so if I put that back in, now it says, hey, I want everything to just be on the same center horizontal line. Regardless of how tall the element is. And so like this is so freaking common, especially for something like this, right? Like I've got all of these things here, and this icon is like maybe twice as large as this, but it's all centered. And so you could put, this is how we're gonna, I'm kind of explaining how we're gonna build it later, but there's a div here and a div here that are spaced apart, but then this div is gonna be also a flex inside of that flex, right? And that is just so that we can align it vertically. So it's okay to have flexes and flexes and flexes. That's basically how I build everything. It's just a million flexes, just nested within each other. Sweet. Okay. We'll take a break in like 5 minutes. We didn't do any breaks last time, and I feel bad. Okay, so let's talk about the other align items. This is kind of like what you would expect, right? Comment that one out. This is going to be a center, and some of the shit I've never even seen before, like first baseline, last baseline, like just don't worry what that is. It doesn't matter. Start, end, that kind of, you know, makes you think what it would be. End could be useful sometimes if you want everything to be bottom aligned. Right. You could do something like building a bar graph or something if you were trying to build something like that, right? They all need to be bottom aligned and then have their own heights individually, right? Sweet. So that's that. There's a lot less to align items because it doesn't really need to be. Like you can't space between or in that kind of stuff inside of align items because it's not. It's just vertical. Right. The thing about align items also though is that it also is affected by the column it shifts. And so sometimes whenever you switch to a flex column, you got to kind of like convert your brain 90 degrees. So like we can look at that, right? Line items. And we're gonna say let's make sure that's what I intended to do. Align items end. So align items end meant bottom whenever we were in a row, but whenever we are in a column, that means the right now because we are on our side, right? So this is like saying justify content end, but we're in a column now. And so this is how you make them all move to the right. So it's like, you can kind of think about it like X and Y. Like align items is your Y axis and justify content your X axis. But whenever you flip to a column, the whole thing just does this, right? And so it can kind of mess with your brain sometimes, but super importante. Okay. So that is just kind of like alignment and direction. Flex also has another thing that is super important. That is, check our cheat sheet. And this is kind of the last important thing that we'll cover. And this is wrapping, not like Eminem. We'll write it out. Kill that. Kill that. So let's make it a last section. And H1 is going to be flex wrap. Okay, so let's just make like a trillion boxes. Box size 100. I don't know if I can do that in the same command. That'd be sick. One, two, three, four. Okay. So we've got a bunch of boxes. Oh, we need a flex container. That is also important. Okay, so we've got this, right? Does anyone, can you guess what flex wrap does? Right. So it's kind of self-explanatory, but it's also kind of hard to get it to work exactly like you want all the time. Flex wrap, wrap. There's also wrap reverse, you know, sometimes you're doing weird stuff, but generally don't use that. Okay, so now we're here. Nope, got rid of it. We've got these 7 boxes that are confined to this space. The space gets smaller and they start closing. Why? Oh, I didn't say this. There we go. I do have wrap reverse also, but okay, well, there's what wrap reverse does. The space got smaller. Instead of putting 7 on the bottom, put 7 on the top. Because, you know, why not? But let's make it not wonky. There you go. Space gets smaller, they start wrapping. Not bad, huh? What is cooler than that though is we want to say, I've got all of these, right? How do I build like a grid of cards? You could, I want them to be side by side, like one here, right? Well, if it's, you could just make them each in a flex, like hard code each of them in a flex 2 by 2, right? But then you just are duplicating a bunch of code. And so instead of making these box size 100, we can just say like box 50% or something like that. I don't know if I can use that. Let's say the width 50, not box 50. Width 50. Breaks. Classic, didn't save. Okay, so 50 is too big. To make it not too big. 46%. Sure, 46 is perfect. So this is just to be nitpicky. 46. Yeah, I'll sit and save this freaking file again. Okay, so now we have all of our cards, right, that are going to be there, and they will max out, but our little solution doesn't work all the way down. Like eventually it breaks because 46 is not enough. And so we're not going to talk about media queries a whole lot in class, but that will be what your homework is over after today. But basically it's saying, hey, once I get to this point right here, change the styles. And so that would be a solution for there. But this works for our browsers, medium sized to large. Just on the smallest niche cases for iPhones, stuff like that, then we would change our solution, right? So that is Flex. I kind of want to leave both of those there. So let's do this. Flex wrap H2, and we're gonna say boxes and put that in there, and then do an H2 and say too wide cards. Sure. So then we need to make these all be with box size 100. Nice. Okay, so now I've got both of those options. And so Flex does both of these things. One case it's doing them one by one, and one case it's doing this little grid thing. And so here's another example that we're going to build here in a second, right here, like all of these cards. Whenever I shrink this page, also over here, whenever I shrink this page, they are all wrapping like that. So that's super common for little tiny things to just have them, they're going to be their own width, and we're just going to keep wrapping them to the next line, right? Sweet. Okay, nice. About an hour. So we are good on everything we're going to learn today. Now we're just going to, after we take a break, we're going to just start trying to build some of the things we see on GitHub, and then we're going to be done for today. Sweet. All right, it's like 10 minutes, 11:14.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got a waste line to put everything in, I couldn't find my app. I was like, trying to check.
Do you want to? You just want that code?
Yeah.
Can you just put that in Slack, the CSS nation? And we'll just copy it.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm just gonna push it.
Yeah.
CD, okay, coders, CD to curriculum. What day are we on? 6. Okay, I just pushed it out.
Like, check out the curriculum. Oh,
And then,
you go to Slack here too.
so this is.
ah, thank you. You got that later.
So
Your header on the side of your Flex div.
yeah, you look at it.
Right there. It isn't about us, and,
They say I was.
you know, I do that. That's something like I literally. I it's not going to once you have this 37 and nothing, it's like. I mean, I got it kind of like 30 minutes, but I'm like going fast. Like, but, you sign it. What do you think of it?
Oh.
I don't know, I guess. Like solid lists. I thought it was cool.
I like the way they use the layers, and like that, how they don't play.
Yeah.
There's a lot of applications that use different settings to that are only. Yeah. It's not low.
I didn't see that. I didn't see.
Okay, so where I had a senior name that's not familiar with. This is what you're making. I kind of asked him. But that's both. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And once you pull it out, that's good. I'm like,
Whatever the file is named.
no, that was super rad. Yeah.
Yeah.
You actually get it. It's like you can kind of, you can see the resemblance a little more when you pull it out. You can see like this hero here.
Yeah, it definitely. I'm building this.
The 30
Just
triangles.
wasting time.
Yeah, I did like that when you get to the step where it's like you duplicate 30 triangles. And you're like, hey,
That's true.
It's like, hey,
I spend time.
if you use the chat, you can look actually in your and can like actually.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's nice. Sometimes.
Email or something, and he just had to write in this very specific language that Google has for it, and it had like a couple of great.
There's an extension.
here. let me show you. So that means on your folder. So the kitchen. Here, that might be difficult.
There's an
So if you find your code. You might have to drag that
Yeah, that's not here.
into breaking. Down.
Yeah, I just wish chat GPT so I can run it on what it
It's all of your stuff right in front of that folder and
Funny, but the actual useful things.
the button.
That's super safe.
Anytime,
Oh, you're missing one.
right, like, notes in there or something.
So you just.
You just like go ahead and do that.
Yeah, really, this is.
And
then we had about being grammatical.
Harder.
yeah, no, I take forever. Like, emails, I'll sit there, write it, look at it, that nice, that's. It's one of that 240, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know that South Park episode, I didn't watch all of it, but I just kind of walked by, got parents TV where like. I think it was, they didn't want to like actually respond to text messages with his girlfriend. He didn't want to say, I think it like ruined it, like. Yeah. We're like, instead of. Yeah, it's still going. It's okay. Possible like for anything now. Next stone is make it. They'll literally make the episodes like a couple days before they air, like from beginning to end, and then they just release them, which is crazy. But yeah, that's the work is like close on the stuff like that, like the AI is the one. No, that it'll be in right there. Things are gonna be very few in the next like 10, 15 years.
I think.
So, but I think
it's monitored.
These one references later, yeah, I mean, it all made it out of.
yeah, no, I do a lot of like stable student stuff because that's like a research well, three separate things.
Yeah.
But it's what people are doing, like something they may call something called where it can take like an existing image and just like
Long enough that it's been.
like one of you can call like I Facebook while it really
I don't know.
yeah it's that maybe like
Really has a lot of stuff. That's the good. And a lot of, like, really small, like, actual layout stuff that I write up the black box, where the place that is actually in the, like the 2x2 thing, grid has that better here. But, yeah.
You're the third one.
Yeah, I don't think my brain on like.
Yeah, well, so that's like,
there's a native thing that they're building on top of, yeah, see like. HTML grid layout.
Clicking on all of this, I also do like 3D art, like 3D modeling and stuff. So knowing that we're getting to the point where you can just type any word that it makes look like you want, it's creepy.
Get out of here. CSS, yeah.
There will always need to be people, but at least for the near future, people need to-
Yeah, so they're like grid, try it yourself. Oh, so there's like actual grid, auto, yeah, like it defines it in the browser as a grid. Oh, okay. Show me the container.
At the very least, they'll like better.
I don't know if you can see, there's like little lines, but it will draw exactly what it should be. But I never use this shit. Yeah. I probably should get better at it.
Yeah,
It's
so
right around the corner.
like,
It's not often that you need to display things in grids unless you're doing some kind of like
it's freaking Miranda code.
brochure site or something, I don't know.
But soon you need to-
If you wanted to column
Insane. Yeah, we're.
layout, do you use Flex or do you use grid?
I haven't built one in a minute. I've needed one for like production things, but I think grid would be better, yeah.
Yeah.
But Flex is,
That you can just.
I normally it's just like when I'm here and I get to here, I just say a media query and then just give it with 100 and just call it good. And so that'll cover iPads down to phones and it's just fine.
You're in an abstract representation of a person, and then it would be exact.
Maybe I should cover media queries.
What do we do?
I think they can probably get away with just Flex and positioning, and that'll be enough for now. I never read media queries.
Really?
Well, I
Well,
mean,
it's because
somebody
Material has
does.
media queries, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Once it gets to a point where it's.
I think for our
you just
purposes
open it,
though,
like,
as long as they
writing
understand.
something back, check it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be cool and scary.
Let's do some big ones. Trying to- Say some stuff. I would do that for 10 minutes.
You just ping them in Slack and bother them.
Those guys.
Yeah, just DM.
Yeah, you can DM us too. Yeah.
I mean, I think just posting in the OK Coders channel, if you need help.
Letting it
access question. And then basically anybody's kind of like pop in and help at that. So the mentors are like checking Slack, just waiting for people.
You really don't think
to ask for help. So,
Also,
yeah.
the actual implementation
Yeah.
on the internet.
Yeah.
It's basically infinite. And not only gonna be.
Then you've got your group also. You can ask help for your group
Yeah, like-
and
like-
I'm sure they would help you also. Or if they don't know,
Every week.
in class,
I think
Yeah.
what said is that's what you like, back in the day when Zoom first started, or like, I'm gonna ask, you, like, or whatever, the, you know, older guys were like, hey, please tell me what it is today, and, soon we actually.
Yeah. Well, so-
More of a thing.
module 2 and module 3, we're not gonna, we will be doing a lot of HTML, right? Like
I'll be doing like.
find by ID, yeah.
Yeah.
So like, we're gonna be using HTML and CSS more. And so it's, you don't have to know it all now because you'll keep getting exposed to it, right? Like every module you'll learn more and more and more about it, but this is just so you're not lost when you're learning that. Yeah.
I get an idea of it. It's so hard to find time for doing a full-time job.
Okay, we're over time. All right, guys, ready to start again?
Yeah.
Everybody ish back, yeah,
Everybody all doing okay.
I think so. Let's see, Zoom. Cannot freaking stand this, okay. Zoom call, guys, you ready to go? Guys and gals, thumbs up. All right,
Okay, right on. I'm good. No, like, where's that from?
okay, so now we're gonna do was looking around to find just like good examples of things to build. And I think nav bars are super common. And there's a lot of flex going on in here. And also this is super common. So we're gonna do both of those. We're gonna just build it inside of a new file separately from the lecture one. So we'll just make a separate like exercises HTML file. And we're not gonna build like a whole layout, right? It's just gonna be this component with the nav bar, and then just we're gonna make a flexy thing under it just to just show what it would be like, right? Okay, so let's do a new file. Get rid of these. One, 6. How do I want to structure it? Now let's do this. Exercise is bang. Okay. Flex building exercises sizes. Okay, let's set up our styles. And let's link it. Link. Is sheet href equals styles. Okay, so now we've just got our regular index styles linked together. So I'm going to try to just like make this as close to production code as I can. So just very descriptive names, making everything as clean as possible. So no like box one, no click me buttons, right? Everything has specific and descriptive names. Okay. So get this shit out the way. Let's do a nav bar. Save style. All right, so we want a nav bar class. Naver. This is good for now, just going to be our display flex. We'll do this for now. If we're putting too many display flexes around, then I can just make it its own class, but this might have other things also. So
I have
now
a
that'll be good.
question real quick.
Yeah, what's up?
So I know there's also an element HTML that is purely just nav. So what's the difference between using div with a class of navbar versus just using the nav element HTML itself?
Yeah, so
there-
she asked, what is the difference between using a div with a class of navbar versus the HTML nav element? So as far as I know, nav is just semantic, and it is just like an accessibility thing. So it's just a div that is prettified for the browser to be able to understand, like that is for navigation, right? Does that answer your question?
That makes
Melissa?
sense. Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Accessibility is super important. I don't have a lot of practice with it because most corporations and companies are pretty shitty and don't focus on it. So there's never been a real emphasis for like the jobs that I've worked at to really learn it and write it in most cases. Okay. But it is important and you should take the time to learn. Also, our free code camp, we're not going to do all of these. But there is one for accessibility that you guys are welcome to after we finish this module. Just like if you want to get the certificate from Free Code Camp, you can just go finish all of these in the projects and get that certificate. We've just picked the ones that we felt were the most important to get you to continue and learn what's important to, you know, build a career. But this does have, I think, a lot of the like semantic type elements like header. Yeah, there's that nav element and stuff. And so this will have a lot of that information, like field set legend, like these are things that I've never even used, but you probably should use. Okay,
Then is nav just is it just a block column, you know? Just pull out.
yeah, so it's basically, looks like it's trying to define like, this is going to be the nav bar. And so like here, this would be like a nav element.
They made it one or is it?
Looks like they made it a header, which is another just semantic element. They could have wrapped these links inside of a nav. Let's see. Yeah, look, see, so like they have a nav wrapping their links also. It's good to see they do it, but we can do it. I mean, it's not going to hurt. It's just a div, right? Well, we can call this one a header and we'll make our wrapper around these, the nav. Yeah, so it also, that documentation for the nav, it said that this is not to be around every link you have in your page, just around the main navigation of your site, right? So this would be the perfect place for that, but I don't think like, you know, this is a link, but you don't need a nav for that. Okay. So we've got a header class nav bar. It's going to be a flex inside of here. We're going to have our two containers we talked about earlier. So just make a div. I don't think this will need a class that I can tell. So a div there and div there, right? So it's going to be like our left thing and our right thing. And so the left thing is going to have all of this stuff in it. We can go ahead and like bring in just font awesome for now to use that stuff. How do I get to my nonsense?
Let me just take, we have one from last one's.
Oh, I did drop it in there, didn't I? Class 5 index. In your box. No, it was 2 classes ago, Saturday. Yeah. Nice. Let's see. Okay, so I'm gonna paste this so that you guys can just use mine inside of our cohort. Did I paste it last time?
It is still in chat there.
I'll just repaste it. It's not a big deal. Okay, so I'll let you guys find that and drop it in. So this is just linking to the JavaScript file for Font Awesome that's associated with my account. But if you wanted to use one, then outside of this class, you could make an account there also. Okay, so I dropped that in there. So right here, we want a, what did they use, an I? Icons, search for, it's probably a GitHub icon. Not gonna lie. Copied. Okay, so now inside of ours, I need to open this up. All right, so we got our tiny little GitHub. So we will make that bigger in a second. Let's just, I normally just get everything on the page and then style it, right? So then we've got this input here. Placeholder is going to be search or jump to. We can get that one. We're not going to worry about this thing for now. The little slash. Just skip it. Okay. We also have that nav element inside of here. Pull request issues code spaces marketplace. So we can do a bunch of A's. You could put these inside of a list, but like you just don't have to. It doesn't change a lot, and it's already inside of a nav. And so like the list is mostly for. I guess the list technically adds in like the browser dots for the list items. And so like we just don't want to have to remove those, and the nav is already doing the accessibility stuff. So we can just do a bunch of A tags. Issues code spaces marketplace. I've been hating this, by the way. Your C spell.
Oh my god, are you kidding? It's amazing.
It's because I just haven't taken the time to write the config to ignore all of the words.
That like our bicycles.
Well, yeah, it's like we're using a package that's like URQL, and it's like, hey, that's not a word. And so every time I use it, then it gives me a squiggly. I hate it. I mean, we have like red squigglies all over our thing because all of our configs are horrible, but okay, so there's that. So that should be everything that's inside of this div over here. And then we need this div over here, which trying to think about how we're not gonna be able to build everything because like we don't know how to make this thing, but we'll just make them icons, right? It doesn't, we're not trying to build GitHub, just the functionality of Flex. So we'll just make 3 icons here. And so inside of here, we're gonna have, and I really keep killing this. Oh, it's right there. Okay, so I need a what? A bell. Bell. Which one looks good? Which one am I allowed to use is the real question. I'm not allowed to use light, is what you said?
As regular and
Solid or something?
solid.
This is regular. Okay, that's just this one. So inside of here, we got a bell, got a, close this. Yeah, a plus and then like a profile icon. Were you guys all able to like set up Font Awesome? You want help? Like the icons importing? Do you wanna stop here for a second? Yeah. Really can't close this. That sucks. Well, some of them are self-closing, like this link is self-closing.
It's how that's fun.
I know, but like,
Just make it define that way, yeah. Make it better.
did you put stuff in here?
So I don't know about React, we do eventually get there. I've heard about it a lot from my friends who kept telling me to use them.
It's the best thing ever made.
Why wouldn't we get there? When we.
Yeah, I said when we get there. No, I know.
They said it.
No. I don't say I'm going to.
Oh, yeah. Oh, did you find it?
Yeah.
Oh, you should.
It's computer.
That's a.
It's so nasty.
You don't like it. Sparkling water.
You're not just running.
At all.
You like soda?
Water, I don't know, it's like, there's a hint of a flavor, it's like a suggestion of a flavor. That's about it.
Not even like LaCroix, like straight up sparkling water, not like flavored.
Not even flavored at all. It's like-
Yeah,
No, that's even weirder to me.
Yeah. Listen, we're Oklahomans. We're not meant to drink sparkling water. That's a Seattle thing, like,
Like poison sugar water, that's like Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go all the way.
no. Yeah, I was like having a hard time getting to bed last night. Like maybe it's because I just had like 5 Dr. Peppers. I probably did it.
Absolutely do.
And that's the Oklahoman way.
Real Southern blood.
Whenever I'm 80 and I'm on an IV, I'm just gonna be like pumping it in because my mouth won't work anymore. You know,
I need it. Like that episode of SpongeBob.
I'll go into withdrawals for real.
So good. Man, old SpongeBob still holds up.
So good.
Yeah.
All right. You caught up, Naja?
Mhm.
Sweet. And then we just need the profile icon also. We won't do a picture for now, just make it easy. There will be like a little person.
Is it a little user icon?
Give me a person in a circle.
Is it a person?
No,
Perspective more users.
we can do this ugly head side thing. This one. Copied. Okay, so now we've got like all of the elements are there. What the heck?
You don't have an issue.
Why they're not home.
Oh, okay. No, I meant like, how did this get over there? But that's over there. I don't know. Coding without. Oh, because I made it a flex already.
Yeah, we already got that knocked out. But you're going double. Flexing too much over here. So,
Oh, because the nav is a block element, right?
I was wondering about that. Okay, so it does actually.
So the nav got pushed down.
Yeah.
So it's like this is one div to the left, and then this is the other div to the right. And so then the nav went wrapped to. I was like, how is this below? But this is right here. Okay, so we need to flex this div so that they will all be on the same line together, because this is a block level element. And so if we put this in a flex, then they'll all be on the same line. And so for this, we'll make a class of flex. Display flex. There will be other things to this, so they're not going to be exactly the same. Or we could just do navbar flex also. I don't know. Navbar is fine.
What did not go on
Sweet. So that's that. Let's put all of our right div to the right. And so we do that with the brain. How about you guys answer for me? What do we do to space these apart? We want the 3 icons to be to the right, that div to be to the right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what property is flexing?
It justify content.
There we go.
Definitely take a look at that.
Justify content. So space and you're right does work. But we'd need everything would be at the end, right? Including this one, which we want to be to the left. And so we're gonna make it have space between. That way, these are over this, because it's 2 divs, right? So this div is on the left and that div is on the right. And so these 3 things ended up over here, and then all of this is over there. Nice. That's another thing of flex, is just like you're gonna put flex on little containers like this also whenever you need just things to be in the same line. That's just like how it is to build with flex. So it's like this is a flex, and then this is a flex, and then it'll be good. Sweet. Okay, so let's make all of our icons like bigger. So let's make like an icon class. And we'll just style all of them the same. And I think this goes off font size. We can use the weird thing. Large or. All right, let's not do that. I hate that. 30 pixels.
What does that do, the larger one?
I think it's just like it has browser defaults that says if it's larger than it should be, whatever.
Okay, so it's add aside and just says go to the next increment essentially.
Yeah, like the browser has defined all of those values.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So these are too big and that one's too small. That one actually might be pretty close. It's still a little small, but these are all too big. So we need, let's make our GitHub icon and then our icon. So the rest of these will all be the icon class, and then the GitHub icon will be very specific. Let's make sure we're not overwriting their class. Like, so these are from what we imported, but I could write a class called FA Bell, right? And put it in my styles. And which one would be applied to this element? Do you guys know?
Or I guess we don't want to, I don't know. No, I have no idea.
So if I have 1,000 style sheets all getting imported, and I have my style sheet getting imported, all that matters is the order that they are imported, right? So this one is at the top. And so it would say, here's my styles, and then theirs would get imported below, and it would take theirs and not care about mine.
Okay, so it just goes.
Yeah, so whatever's at the bottom is the last one put on top, right? And so it would use theirs. So try not to overwrite their styles. You probably do want, in most cases, for your own styles to be last. In case you did want to overwrite their styles, then this would let you, right? Okay, GitHub icon, font size, let's make this, so 30 pixels is too small, so let's make it 40 pixels. We'll check it in a second. And then this one are too big, so let's make this like 20 pixels. So that looks pretty close, and that one is tiny. This needs to be the GitHub icon. Oh, I can kill this, sorry. Oh, we can do this too. Sweet. Let's see what that looks like. Nice, we've got a big GitHub thing. All right, and so now, this is kind of what I was mentioning earlier, we have all of these links that are, did the input adjust size? Let's see. Let's make this bigger and see if the input gets taller. Font size is going to be, yeah, so look at the input is just automatically growing, which is fine. Refresh that, get rid of that. And we can set the height manually and override that. That's just like the browser default for that, I guess.
Because it's inline.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah. Well, it could be inline, but also not have its own height to be 100%.
What is it doing?
As far as I didn't know it would do that. I didn't think it would do that.
Will you click on that?
Yeah.
inline block.
Yeah, inline block, and also like the height is not specified. So I think like Zach and I both use libraries, and so we're never writing an input directly. And so those will always come in with their own defaults, right? Which we're going to learn libraries later when we're doing React. And so you'll understand what that means more. Sweet, okay, so input will change the height of that to be specified, but all of these links, we need them to be centered vertically. How do we do that? It's fresh, we just learned it.
Yeah,
How much of that did we?
Align items.
Align items, yeah. Okay, so we've got this flex already that exists here. Trying to decide if I want to give this its own class or make a generic align items class. Think that I want to just make it generic. Like that. Align center. Yeah, that's good. So let's come over here. Put this with flex, because that's what it will always be used with. Align center, and then we're gonna make this align items center. Okay, nice. So
Need to do that on the nav bar too, so that stuff on the right. The line.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so what Zach said for people on everywhere, we're gonna need to do it on the outer header component also, element also, because these icons are not centered to everything that's on the left side, right? We may need to do it both. Let's see. If I delete this flex and put it up here. Yeah. And so, yeah, you have to do both because the outer ones are aligned together, but the inner one is not going to inherit that style. It needs to define its own. So then they will both need to be aligned center.
After aligning
Yeah.
it, fix it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Let's make a background color and change all that kind of stuff on our header now. Now that we generally have things kind of where they're going to go. So steal their colors. This. I'll just type, I guess you can read it here. So background color. Is 161 B22. That is just some kind of darker-ish blue. And wrong one. We actually don't need this anymore. Okay, so now we have this thing. Oh, we need to, let's go ahead and just do our generic like resets to our whole file, being this and also being the box sizing. So we need to do HTML margin. There's none. 0, and that should not get rid of that. It's padding probably.
I think you need to do body too, which is
What if you just did the asterisk for all?
Yeah, that seems like.
If I did the asterisk for all, then it would, every element would have margin 0.
And then wouldn't you just override it though in there, or is that just not a better? That's what I normally do. That's what I see like people do. So I'm just curious. Because then you would just code in what margin you'd want
You could do that,
afterwards.
but then let's say it's making it harder for you to work with other things. And so
Mhm.
this is kind of talking about things that is not to our use case. Sorry. So she said, could you just make this asterisk margin 0 and make all elements have margin of 0 as just a reset? But in this case, we're just using Font Awesome and they're not handling any kind of margins or anything. But if we were using, we can flash Tailwind real quick just to show that it exists. So this is like a design library that you can use in just raw HTML and CSS. Generally, it's used with more than that. But we'll pop this real quick. So they have a CDN that's exposed. That means like content delivery network, I think. And so this has their styles exported just like how Font Awesome is doing. And so this lets you just use their classes, right? And so we have basically all of their stuff is just, they give you classes to use. And so like, this is Flex 1. It looks exactly like the stuff I was writing. It's kind of why I was writing it like that, is like, these are things that already exist in the wild. And so instead of writing display flex is a class called flex, they just export that for you, right? And so then they have a bunch of default styles that are on all of these classes. And so if you import Tailwind, for example, above your style sheet, and then here you said asterisk everything, then now you're resetting. So it's not going to play nice with theirs, is kind of what I'm saying. Like, you're resetting all of the styles that you're importing. Yeah, so I mean, it's generally to just, you don't want to have what they call side effects, where you're affecting things on outside of the scope of what you're actually trying to specifically set. And so for this case, I think just margin 0 makes sense. That way we can just affect only the HTML on the body to make sure that we're not, you know.
Just keep it specific, so you know exactly what you're over.
Yeah, yeah. Alternatively, for this box sizing, border box, this is what we talked about Wednesday. This is such a widely accepted default that really should be the browser default, but it's okay to override this. And if they were setting border box, or if they were setting box sizing to like border content, something like that, we would want to override that, because we want this to be how everything in our entire application works. And so it is okay to use star for that, because we're intentionally overriding everything on purpose, right? Okay. So yeah, I mean, you could just do both of these in every style sheet that you write ever, unless you have something that is already doing that for you. Okay, so let's make our color white so that we can read this. We won't use white, we'll use FA. That's like a nice eggshell. Okay, so that actually applied to everything within inside of this header. And so our icons and our links and everything all became white as well. Let's make some padding so that everything's not so crowded. So let's do padding, 5-ish pixels. Padding 5 pixels. Maybe 5 pixels is smaller than I think. Okay, yeah. 10 pixels. How big is theirs? I think our GitHub is like too big. So let's make it smaller. I think 10 pixels is probably okay. We can make it a little bigger, but it's not that serious. Man, this is ugly too, huh? I hate that this is the default font. Fonts are something that I don't have a lot of experience with. The only thing that I know definitely makes it a little better is just setting the font family to sans serif. If you guys aren't familiar with like fonts and stuff, serif means all the stupid things sticking out of every letter, and sans serif means without that. So now it looks like not hideous. Honestly, we could just set this on here. Okay, so that looks good. Honestly, we could style all of this out, but I think the examples of what is important to Flex itself is there, right? Everything's aligned, centered, it's spaced apart, and it is responsive. And so that is kind of the whole point. Obviously, you need more margins and style the input to be the colors it needs to be, but all this stuff is kind of smaller scale than what we're trying to achieve here. So yeah, this looks good for now. And if you want to build upon that and make it pixel perfect to GitHub, like go for it. I think doing stuff like that is super cool. Plus, trying to think about stuff like that on your own, and it'll really help you apply it, and it'll help you like remember it in more of a long-term scale.
And doing that Starbucks thing helped a lot whenever we did that in class, that a lot of stuff. And when I started, I was like, oh crap, I have no idea where to go without guidance.
Right.
So,
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of like a newer thing. Well, not really, like whenever I did it, like I actually made a Overwatch. I think is whenever we were into JavaScript, because I pulled from an API, but I just got a list of all of the Overwatch characters. No, I think I manually downloaded each picture is what I did, and I manually rendered them on and made a Overwatch website was my,
you
yeah,
still have that?
I don't even know.
No.
I probably got deleted.
He's probably one that came from-
No one will ever see that. It's privated on GitHub forever. Yeah, I think once we got into JavaScript, I think I made like a thing that pulled all of the magic cards and stuff, and then you could like search through them and it would just filter. And yeah, and so like it's also like maybe between courses, if you're not going to do all the free code camp stuff, then just try something that you want to build and just see, you know, if you can build it. Yeah. Sweet. Okay, so that covers that. The other thing is just this. And so we'll just put this in a box down below this nav bar. So we can just call this tag container. And this is going to have a bunch of tags. A tag is like, that's kind of the name you'll see, or like a pill for these things inside of a lot of like component libraries and other places. So it's good to just like get familiar with that kind of stuff. So we'll make a bunch of tags and then the tag container. So here, make the tag container on top because it kind of comes first. Container. This is going to be a display of the SPLA of Flex, and it's going to have a wrap, Flex wrap, you know, of wrap. It's kind of weird. Flex wrap is wrap. It should be just like Flex wrap is crew, yeah. But yeah, so that's the thing. And then we need to define our tags are going to be just width of, I don't know, small, 80 pixels. And background. Oh. Shit. Is this like bluish color? We can steal theirs. You guys will definitely want to get used to like clicking through this stuff and like looking at pages and stuff, because like design is hard. And like, I'm not a designer, I'm just a builder. And so whenever they give me some product requirements, they're like, hey, go build something. I'm just gonna look other places. And so I'm just gonna look inside of their stuff, see how they did it, and just, you know, use their colors and stuff, because I'm colorblind and all kinds of, like, it's just not my thing, right? So stealing people's colors is definitely fun. And then what text color do they use? I think I might have got that backwards. Color, background color. RGB nonsense.
If you command click the square, it will change it to X.
Oh, like. control click it?
Well, it has an alpha. I don't think you can do alpha with hex, right?
Oh,
So that 0.15 means the opacity should be 15%. Yeah, and I don't think you can do that with hex.
I didn't know that's what.
actually.
Oh, what did I do? Backwards. Background. This one will be color. Okay.
Colon. Yeah, height or, you know.
I was just gonna do it with padding. Yeah. I need also to like put stuff in there. So many of these, Jesus. React, Node, JavaScript. Here, let's just write all the things we're going to learn in this class. Material, UI. What else we learn? MongoDB, Express, HTML. I need enough that we can play with the wrap, so. Yeah, so that's Option Shift down. And delete shit, just Command backspace.
Like, I'm doing this, started doing it, the best thing ever, Sullivan.
Yeah,
I like it first.
Yeah, I've been doing that too, and then I realized when I'm.
I didn't know you did.
yeah.
Did you think we were
There's also just Option up and down if you just want to move that line around. That's pretty useful too. Or you can like just highlight a block and move the whole block around.
Finding where my mouse is and bringing it to the right place and having it.
Man, you would like Vim, I'll tell you what. You should walk Zach. I guess you're gonna next module. You're all gonna be like, what is this magic? How is he doing things?
Class for you, is that that you installed or?
No, you.
That's
you
a
type
V,
it in.
that's a VS Code default, yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's just so common to type a div with a class that they just made that a thing. Is this it? I think it's it. I guess I can, hey, look at that. Now we can order them properly. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Material, React, Node, Mongo.
We'll probably do Node before we end, at least a little bit. But Express, yeah, because like we'll do some back and just. They would just need that. Circuit.
Yeah, what do you mean Node? Like the CL, like a terminal?
Or like terminal on the.
When I do it, you're kind of like, we're doing that.
Sweet.
I'm doing- I am doing-
All right, so let's keep going. So this is our thing here.
It's super.
It is flexible, and let's just put this how do I do this? I want to make it smaller. We'll just drop the whole page, and this nav bar will just break and it'll be okay. So this does wrap, but let's make them less ugly real quick. So oh, we're not actually setting a width, are we? No. So I hit this so freaking often. If you hit Command \, it'll make a new tab of your tab. And if you hit Command W, that's to undo all your stupid mistakes. Because I try to hit Command delete and I always hit this. Anyways. So just need some padding to give space all the way around the word, and we'll just do like 3 pixels, and so like top and then 5 pixels on the side. So what does that mean? 3 pixels, 5 pixels?
Top, bottom, left, right. Top and bottom, and then left and right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Top and bottom is 3 pixels, left and right is 5 pixels. Just to make it a little bit wider on the sides than it is on the top. I think is this reversed? No, I think it's just because their background is super dark. Steal that too. Give me your color. We don't care. It's okay. Yeah, and then the other thing is we want our pills to be rounded. What's the property to round?
The border rating 50%.
Get out of here. 50%, so good. That's probably looks pretty good. Yeah, so if it, did we talk about that last time? About what the percentages are?
We did.
We did,
We
yeah.
did.
I'll send you guys a YouTube video because I watched one that was like explaining it, and it's too much math going on. I would just recommend not using percentages.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
It's just, yeah, just
Makes-
do.
Makes it a lot nicer.
So this is gonna be super square, so we need to make this like a ton. Yeah, that's getting there. And 200's a million, so we can just like divide that by 16 by just doing like rims. No, it just looks like a smaller number, but it's still a huge number. And let's make our padding bigger because it's still pretty small. Let's do like 5 and like 8 maybe. It's a little closer. I feel like left and right could be farther because a lot of the width is getting eaten by the border radius. So we do like 10. Did I save that? Yeah. Yeah, so it looks pretty good. Boom, boom. All right, so now I've got these little things in there wrapping. They could use some margins though. It's like 1 pixel of margin. So the tag itself, we could just give it a margin right of 1 pixel. Yeah, looks pretty good. All right, so like this is oh, and then we give it margin bottom of pixel 2. And that'll take, whenever it wraps, that'll put off the that next line down there, right? It could be more than that. Let's say 5 pixels. And we'll pause for a second. Yeah, so we'll make this 2, and I think it looks pretty good.
Were you trying to rotate some lines?
I would recommend just removing the width on the tag if you still have that and
Yeah.
deleted that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what That's what I'm.
You can align it center, or you can just make it to where the container of the tag is just the size of the content, and then just space it with the padding to make
Gotcha,
it,
and that makes sense. They're gonna be different,
Yeah.
lengths of text.
yeah, now then they can all fit.
Yeah, got it.
This is just like, here, we'll do something extra, right? Let's say like we give this like a max width. Because like we want them to be big, but someone put something in here that's just way too big. So let's say max width of, what's a good size? 200 pixels, not 2000. So none of these should be hitting that. They're all pretty small. But like we could put, yeah, lorem inside of it, which, you know, someone put that inside of a tag or something, sure. Save. All right, so that's what that looks like. Also, you see the MongoDB is a flex, and so it also got uglified because of this. And so this is hitting that max width, right? It's only 200 pixels wide. And so we can add some spatial properties to it. Text overflow ellipsis. Save, refresh. Text overflow. Oh, we need the no wrap. Text. Wrap. W. W. What's the wrap thing? Alright.
Word wrap.
Word wrap, yeah. Word wrap. No wrap is what I'm looking for. Isn't there a none? Nope. Break word, no, because that's gonna say. Normal inherit unset. Sure. How to make text ellipsis in CSS. White space, no wrap. So. White space. No wrap. So the word wrap is saying how to determine when to wrap the next line. The white spaces should be what we want. If I could find the right freaking tab. All right, so we're closer. We need this to text overflow ellipses. Is that what I have?
You do have that.
Did I misspell something? Ellipsis. Ellipsis. Overflow. I remember, yeah, there's a bunch of things that you have to do in tandem to do this shit. Yeah, there you go.
There, yeah. Brown.
Sweet. And so now it's not breaking your thing. That looks good. And that's like by itself as an isolated thing, that's like production ready, and you could just like submit that, right? And our nav bar needs some help, but it's responsive and flexible, and so it does it for the most part. The other thing is like, you know, mobile screens. What's up?
Show them what GitHub actually does when you make it so small.
Yeah. So they're gonna flip to like a hamburger menu and simplify, and so all those things will go inside of here.
Talking about earlier where it switches styles based on the.
Yeah, and so they're gonna do that with JavaScript and React probably, and also a component library that does it for them. In past classes, we've learned like Bootstrap, which is if you want to learn something and you don't want to, like if you wanted to build a website right now before you go, you could teach yourself this. It's kind of straightforward, but I'll go ahead and show you docs. They have like a nav bar that you can just import and use. Components, nav bar. Yeah, so like, see their nav bar, it's kind of small. It's like they've got this thing. We decided not to teach this in the HTML CSS version because we're going to learn Material UI inside of our React course, which is just more widely used. Like you're going to use this and you'll never use Bootstrap after you know React. And so we're just going to skip this, and for now, probably forever. But it is good for this if you're not going to use higher level stuff and you just wanted to build a website right now with HTML and CSS. Like this would probably be the easiest way to do it. And so you see like it automatically handles that for you. And so if you wanted to do that, then that is there, and I can drop a link to Bootstrap also. Sweet. Don't try to hand roll things like that most of the time. Like people have done this stuff, and every single website in the entire planet has a nav bar that shrinks into a hamburger menu. And so it's like, you don't want to write all that stuff by yourself all the time.
Like in 3D, they say like, don't model trees, don't model rocks, that kind of stuff. Just someone else already did it, don't get messed up.
Yeah,
No one's gonna care.
exactly. All right, guys. Well, I hope everyone has a understanding of Flexbox and stuff. Message us if you have any questions, Naja. Awesome. You got anything?
No, just 2 more classes.
Yeah, Wednesday and Saturday. Oh, so let's talk about Wednesday a little bit. So on Wednesday, we're gonna learn positioning. So like right now, I'm just gonna do it in the browser. So right now we have this HTML body, give it a height of like just infinite millions. Oh, don't hit save. That's a habit. All right, so this is just forever scrolling, right? Positioning, we're gonna take the same component. Maybe we'll style it up a little better before then. Probably not. And so we're gonna make this thing stay at the top. And so whenever you're scrolling, you'll always see it. And so we're gonna learn how to do stuff like that. Also, we're gonna have this, see this little blue thing? We're gonna put that on top of our icons. And so that's the plan for Wednesday. And then we're also gonna show you, like, we have these links. And right now we've only been working off of one HTML page, right? We're gonna link to multiple pages, and that's the plan for Wednesday. And so we'll show you all of that set up, and so you can separate each page with a different HTML file, and then you link between them. And then Saturday, we're gonna have you guys build out a like multiple page application with a nav bar that's sticky, and we'll kind of have showed you all these things, and you're gonna put them all together. And so now the final Saturday will be another group project, and just trying to stitch everything together. It'll probably be a long one because it'll be the final one, but sweet. All right, guys.
Have a good rest of your weekend.
Find my Zoom. Shutting down. See you guys.
See ya.
It was supposed to be a slow day.
Hi, thank you.